Nice intro, Sam. That was a good one. What happened there then?
Slay the show, but I don't even know. Like, it just started melting halfway through. Fuck it.
Pretty good, pretty good. Anyway, this is First Blood. I'm Richard Lewis, your host. With me, as always, whenever we do the show, is my co-host Broken Shard. How are you doing, Ram? Are you good?
Where am I? Yeah. I guess something.
Awesome. And we've got a guest today. We brought somebody in. It was kind of all short notice because we didn't know if we were going to do the show. So thanks to a chap who's been turning heads and earning lots of fans and plaudits in his time as a coach as Copenhagen Wolves. It is the mighty dentist. How are you doing, Carl?
I'm doing perfect, thank you.
I've got to say, since you've been getting this riot money, you've really scrubbed up pretty nice. Like you're looking like a model or some shit now.
He's talking to me about getting these tans, haircut visits, expensive suits.
Yeah.
I'm actually amazed,
baby.
Yeah, but I mean,
eSports.
you're from well, I don't even know. It's just you're looking more and more fucking German now. It's incredible. You've got this perfect skin, blonde hair.
I'm going to my roots to my German roots. So
that's good.
Kind of have to roll with it.
I better get the fuck out of here then if you're going to your German roots.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is what I'm worried about. So anyway, well look, we always start the show with like sort of a mini interview, asking the guest, how they've been doing, what their plans for the future are and whatnot. Now, obviously, Copenhagen Wolves. I mean, I guess a lot of people are going to be saying, well, they didn't have too great a split, but that's not true because usually at the end of a split, they are battling against relegation. That didn't happen this time. You guys did make it to the playoffs, but were summarily trounced by H2K in quite comprehensive fashion. So how have things been with you guys since that happened? Have you guys, been feeling okay? Is the team going to sort of continue in the form that it was?
Yeah, absolutely. Like the team is going to continue the way it was. The current standpoint is that we will have no roster changes whatsoever. So we're going to stick to the same 5 guys who are battling through players like last season, and it's good. Like we built a solid fundament last season. It was pretty successful, at least for Copenhagen Wolves standards, and we're going to plan on continuing this season. It's going to be a lot more rough and a lot tougher than last split. Especially since I don't expect Elements or Rocket to underperform like they did this spring split. And with Origin, you kind of have like a better replacement for Meet Jamaicas. So you kind of expect more with them. So there's only Giants and us left who kind of fight it out at the bottom spots. But we're kind of confident that we can make it work and go into the middle of the pack this split again with the same roster.
No one expected you guys to pull it together last split, so you guys came honestly quite impressively at like a 5th, 6th place, which is quite good. You do have more competition, but then again, you also have a full split of LCS experience with a proper coach now, so obviously it can only get better.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the main reason why we stay together. Like that's the main reason. We all see that there's potential. The CLG potential is going hard in the Copenhagen Wolves. Potential is a shit word, but like we work together, so we created such a great work environment as the 6 of us that there's no reason for us to change anything. And even if there are some rumors, or there were some rumors that we're going to make changes, or that we have to make changes because the one or the other player doesn't perform. And then there's also the thing that you have the big 80 carry star in Copenhagen Wolves who's never going to re-sign with them but leave after one successful split. The current state is that's not going to happen. We're going to stay together, same rooster, same team next split, and hopefully same placement or even slightly better.
Well, there's a couple of things that I definitely want to touch upon. I mean, there was a lot of rumors after the series defeat that Airwax was, look, he's been. This goes before even you were in the team. There was talk about Airwax being a difficult personality to work with. That sometimes he could be a little bit, I don't know, like hostile towards some of his teammates if things weren't going well. And there was talk about him. Well, he ended up getting benched and everything else, and Ram was kind of privy to that situation.
The replacement for Airwax in the summer was a really handsome guy. It was really good. I forgot who he was.
It was the most handsome jungler Copenhagen Wolves ever had.
I agree.
Let's be real.
I agree. I'm not sure who it was. It wasn't amazing though. It's more handsome.
Yeah. So, I mean, was there any truth in those reports? You know, because I did see it get. I think it might have been on the Daily Dot. Actually, I think we might have reported that one. It wasn't one of my stories. So, I mean, hit us up. What's your take on it as a coach?
The time where the article got released was just like wrong. Like at that time where the article was released, there was no talk about replacing Airworks anymore. There is truth to it whatsoever, because we reached out to junglers, we reached out for potential tryouts before the series, because he doesn't go hostile on his teammates. Like Kareem is a really nice person personally, but he has some he had some problems with like keeping his moral up and his work motivation up. But we had talks, we talked it out, and we talked with him about a possible replacement that he has to change in order to continue to play on this team. But that was way before we played playoffs. That was way before we played playoffs. So the moment we played the moment we played H2K in the playoffs in the first round, that topic was off the table. Like there was no talks about replacing Alex anymore, and that was kind of bad, because like he just got home on Sunday. Like it was the day after the playoff defeat, he went home. And the first thing he saw when he arrived home was that he's on the chopping block. It was just like frightening, calling me saying, why? I thought we figured this out and I thought it's all fine. I said, no, dude, this is like, it's the right article at the wrong time. So
I get that does happen. I mean, that's one of the things that I think people probably aren't aware. By the time as a journalist you've got the information and you've filtered it and you've checked it and double checked it, probably by the time it does go to print, it is a little bit out of date.
Dude,
so,
I don't blame you for releasing that article, or the person who released
it.
I know.
I
don't know who. Like, I don't blame him, because there's definitely truth to it. Because if you talk to persons who you want to potentially try out, you have to talk about having a tryout with them. So obviously that news is out there and that news can spread. But as a matter of fact, at the time it got released, I just would have wished that the person who released it just contacted me, like asked for a statement. Dude, I got this on the table. Is this true? And I said, yes. It would have been the correct article. Like I would have given you a statement 3 weeks ago, but now it's off the table. So that was kind of harsh. But overall, I don't blame anyone.
So the other question, of course, is
wait. Isn't it common practice that the journalist should always reach out to the organization or the group that they're commenting on? Like, I know even if you're doing pieces that are almost painting the said people in a bad light, isn't it common practice to contact them? Like with your article about the Trick 2G thing, didn't you even reach out to 2G? Most of the time,
I did actually, but I would first of all, I think there's a misconception about this. It's what we call, it's best practice. So in an ideal world, you would want to do it, but the sad truth is, eSports is far from an ideal world, and increasingly journalists are going to do it less and less, because there's a trend from organizations when people
Yeah, like they're like, we'll give you a comment, and then they release their own statement.
Yeah, I mean, and that's happened quite a lot recently.
The thing is, I have the platform now, so if there's any journalist who wants to publish anything about Copenhagen Wolves, my Skype is pretty public. Like Richard's got my Skype, everyone got my Skype, and I'm always willing to give a statement and say if it's true or not. Because if someone gets the information, I will do it. He didn't do it.
Yeah, I think this is the thing. You're in a minority. I mean, just recently, I've had this problem come up. You reach out for a statement and it just completely fucking burns you to the ground. You've wasted all that research. You've wasted all that time. And in many ways, I think rather than people lashing out at the journalists that don't ask for a statement, which as I said, they're not actually. Again, it's best practice. I don't think there's necessarily an obligation to do it. It certainly depends on the story. I think, if you're writing about someone individually, you definitely have to give them a right to reply to specific allegations. But if you're writing about an organization, and their practices. I don't think you're necessarily obliged to give them a platform to contradict something that you know to be true from evidence that's been presented to you. I was just talking about this in Bucharest with Thorin, and he said, can you imagine if there was like a German journalist when the Nazi parties that first started rounding up, seditious people and putting them in camps and putting them on the trains, and a journalist was trying to get it printed, and an editor turned around to him and said, did you get a comment from the Nazi party though? Because, and obviously if you didn't, then they don't run the story and everyone goes to the camps. So, I think, not that I'm comparing gaming organizations to the Nazi party, far from that. But I think, the idea of this, like, without a comment from an organization, the story's like ridiculously invalid. I think that's like really overplayed. And I also got to say as well, let's not forget that an organization will just go on social media and say you're lying anyway, whether you ask them for a comment or not.
Yeah, I do know that some players reached out at that point because simply because of the fact that that Kareem was on his way home, and everyone in the team knew when he comes home, the first thing he's gonna see is front page Reddit, Alex gets replaced. Thank you very much. So they said just like, no, this is like not, we didn't try to get you out of the house and then replace you after we told you everything's all right and we like the way you worked in the past couple of weeks. Personally, I didn't do it because I just knew that there might be some truth to it because the way he got to the information must have been from someone we wanted to try out. So yeah. It's a correct and it's a valid information. As an esports journalist, it's his job to get stories out there, and that is a story. And especially after a playoff dropout, it's a good time to publish that. But at one point or another, I would have wished if that the person just contacted me and asked me, dude, I know that it was happening like 4 weeks ago. How's the current state? Can I release it? Do you want to take a statement? Thank you very much. That would be the way I would have wished. But I also understand that not everyone does it because some organizations might be pretty rude when it comes to esports journalistic approaches.
Well, I mean, and not just that, of course. It's the threat of, potentially losing your livelihood. I mean, there's a lot of sites out there that aren't as fortunate, say, for example, as the Daily Dot, where one big story can be the difference between them achieving a significant increase of traffic and therefore hitting a campaign, an advertising campaign that they've booked on their site. So think Summoners In, for example, who they broke some big stories, and every time they do it, people say, well, they're not a credible site. They're not a credible site. They're writing in bad pidgin English because they're German. It's a German website and their translation's not so good, so they're not valid. And even though their information turns out to be right, people still criticize them. Now, if they go out to an organization, for example, and say, hey, can we get a comment on this? And they lose the story, it's certainly a much bigger deal for them. And in particular, the individual journalists, or a site like Gold per 10, where the writer is getting paid a percentage of the ad revenue directly. So, it's like I say, in this instance, I don't think it's too big a deal. But I think organizations sometimes are their own worst enemies. I did a video about it all recently, which I'm not allowed to release at the moment. But maybe one day I will be able to. So we can go into that, I think, at a later date. But certainly, I know it's never cool as a player when you're in the fucking middle of being in the story and you think it's all blown over, and and then you just virtually pick up the fucking papers, and there you are. You're being talked about. So I guess that might have put him a little bit on tilt. But I'm guessing it's all smoothed over now. He's cool. He's feeling good about his position in the team.
Yeah, absolutely. Like he's motivated as ever. He's gonna come back stronger than you've ever seen, and without overestimating what he can do. After seeing what he can do and what he's able to do when he's got the right work effort, then I'm sure he will go far next split, and he will be able to stand up and stand against the best junglers in the West.
So the other question that always comes up at the end of a split for Copenhagen Wolves is what's going to happen with Youngbuck. Everybody always gets on his back. Everyone always criticizes him.
Don't you know the latest thing? It's CW Beanzu, man. It's practically confirmed.
Binsu, can you get me another cola, please?
So
No.
When's Faker getting here?
Like,
Yeah.
you know, I again, full disclosure, I know Joey. I like Joey. We get along. I've always said I think he's, a model pro and probably doesn't get the credit he deserves, actually, for being that. He's a good captain, too. But is there any, you guys looking over at him and saying, come on, you've had a good run now. We'd like to get a carry top laner in and you can move to coach or analyst or something else?
No, that's not gonna happen. Joey is one of the, if not the most essential parts of the team, like 100%. He is so essential. He's a role model when it comes to working effort. That guy puts in so many hours and so much effort to try to become a better player because he knows that he has to put in the work, and no one has to tell him that he does. Like I don't have to go to him and say, you know what, dude, like you had a good run for like 4 years now. Maybe you should just know that's not gonna happen. Like he tells me, he's the one who says, okay, I don't have what it takes anymore, and I'm gonna stop. And as long as he doesn't say that to me, he will be a part of Copenhagen Wolves and he will be my top laner. As long as that doesn't happen, he will be my top laner because I know for a fact the moment we start practicing, he comes in and he gives his 100%. And last split was arguably the best split that we ever saw from Youngblood. Like there's not even room for discussions when it comes to this. His numbers are solid, his plays are solid, and in the playoffs, I don't have to say much. He's the only top laner who ever killed Odoamne one-on-one, like during the whole split, on a champion like Hecarim, which is something that no one would have expected from him. Like put Youngbuck on a carry champion and just let him do his thing and he gets one-on-one kills. That's nothing no one would have ever thought of. So he's a very essential part of the team, and there's no reason at the moment to even think about replacing him.
So here's a more general topic before we get into the news. Like you guys have both been coaches with varying degrees of success, I might add. And this is something that I'm always really intrigued about. Like it kind of feels a little bit like you guys coaches are, I don't know, like almost expendable. Like you get none of the credit when a team's doing well, unless someone makes like one appreciation thread. Like, does anyone else think that Incarnation is SK Gaming's secret weapon?
No one would have given probably almost any appreciation if he wasn't such a likable figure.
Yeah.
Or if one of the H2K members didn't say anything about him. Just like the coaches are like the last people you would talk about.
But equally,
people attribute Carl's success because he's a likable figure. No offense, not just because you're a good coach, but because you're a likable figure. People are jumping to defend Leviathan over the whole Gambit debacle because he became a likable figure. People think probably is the mastermind behind H2K, even though he well might be. Whereas people wouldn't appreciate, I don't know, maybe UOL's coach, Sheepy, because he's not super well known. Even though I'm almost certain that Sheepy has a huge part in the reason that UOL got second this split, and no one really gives him credit. So in a way, it's like we're invisible unless we're known somehow before it, and it can be both ways. Like how Monte Cristo got so much flack for CLG failing to perform, or Alliance's coach, Element's coach for being a Dota player or something like that. Or in almost any situation, you know.
But I think this is, I mean, that's a bigger problem. That's a sort of almost like a separate debate because let's be honest, this isn't a sport in the sense that fans actually understand, or are interested in understanding the game in a broader context. Like actually, you're right. Like the bulk of people, like success in League of Legends is dictated by popularity ultimately. I think for the most part, like if you're a shit player, you get more chances if you're like a likable person on a big team or you're, friends with the right people in the scene, But if you're a good player, like a really, really good player, but you're not quite as likable, look at Forgiven, for example. This is a guy who has just proven how good he is at AD carry, but he had to spend time playing for a fucking Greek team because teams in Europe didn't want to pick him up, and there was no appreciation threads for him on fucking Reddit. He was deemed to be an unlikable guy. So, I think that's just a big, indicative of a much bigger problem anyway, where popularity is, pretty much the go-to quality you have to have if you want to do anything in League of Legends. But what I was going to say was that, you guys also sort of the first to get cut. You see all these coaches getting cut and moved around, and like, you know, often before they cut the players. You know, like the players that have like played shit in a split, they get another chance. But yeah, we'll get the coach out. We don't like that. We don't like the coach. So tell me what it's like being a coach. Like, do you guys actually have any real fucking influence, or are you like what I think a lot of people suspect, just props, just there on stage to look good?
I mean,
that highly depends on the organization, I would say, because as a coach, you have to have some authority, and that authority comes from the organization. So how it works in the West for the most part is that the players who play in the team choose the coach. So you have a team of 5 players, and they have to choose a coach. So the fundament going into a coach in that lineup are pretty fucking bad. Because let's be real, if they don't like what you're saying, then they're just going to ignore you. They just don't listen to you, and then the influence goes down to 0. And since you're not hired by the management, and the management or the organization itself doesn't give a fuck about you, you're just there on stage. You don't have the authority to bench this player. You don't have the authority to fine a player. You don't have no power whatsoever when it comes to decisions around those people who don't want to work with you. So that's a problem that's like pretty fair spread, I guess, in the West when it comes to coaches. Personally, for me, that's not the case, because one of the things that were like most important for me is to get in good touch with the management. And Jacob and I, we work really close together when it comes to building the future for the future fundament for Copenhagen Wolves. And he trusts my word.
I see how it is. You slept with Jacob, didn't you? You got him good with the management.
I would love to. Yeah, no. The thing is, it's actually a thing that is really important. Because if you don't have if the management doesn't have your back, you literally have no coaching tools whatsoever. Because what is a coaching tool? You don't tell them how to, you don't have to tell them how to use the Q on Ezreal. That's something you don't have to tell a player as a coach, because he's a professional player. You have to tell them, or like to coach them and teach them the bigger picture. And if they don't like that bigger picture and don't want to try that bigger picture that you try to coach them, then they're just not going to do it. So there is no way to judge what a coach is actually doing for the team. And that's one problem that many people, including myself, have with the current coaches in the league. I can't judge if the person is a good coach or not. Like, we all hang around together, we all have a drink together, and they're all likable characters. Like, I don't have a single coach in the current EU LCS that I don't like. We all hang around, we all come along pretty well together. So I wouldn't say that he's a bad coach, but can I judge it? No, I can't, because I don't really know what influence they got and what power they have within the organization. So it's really hard for any outsider. Like, if it's even hard for me to judge the influence of a coach, how hard is it for someone who's not involved? Almost impossible.
I mean, Ram, you've been coach at a few organizations. So what's it been like for you? What's your experience? I mean, do you feel like a guy who has actual authority, who can, say this player's cut, that player's cut, this isn't going to work, you need to, work on this, we need to pick this champ? Or are you a guy who's like almost kind of, do you know what might be cool if we did this? Like, which one's closer to the truth?
Well, when I was in the first team that I coached, Gamers 2, I felt like a lot of what I wanted to do, I kind of had like my hands tied behind my back, almost, in a sense. Like, I couldn't really what's the word I'm looking for? Pressure the players enough, because the players felt too safe in a way, and like I didn't have as much authority in there. They told me coach, but what they wanted was analyst, and the reason it didn't work out is that because I kept trying to be a coach and all they wanted was an analyst, until a certain point where I just didn't become useful. Now, fast forward to fucking Senkux. That's it. You're benched. You're benched. See ya. Fast forward to Dignitas EU, where when I was a player and I was told by Odie that the idea for the next split is to build a team strong enough to make LCS and do whatever you need to do. Then I felt like I really had the authority in which I could actually be a leader, a team captain, and a real coach. And now I feel like I do have a team coach, because the players respect me, because they saw the lengths that I would go to bring the best roster possible that I could together, that they wanted, that I'm putting a lot of effort in every day and making sure that they're getting anything they need from Dignitas, Like Senkuk's got a laptop just a few days ago that from Dignitas from Alienware, which I also got too, by the way. Just shameless plug. Thank you Alienware for the laptop. By the way,
do you want us to get a logo to flash up?
No, it's okay. Don't need to.
I mean, like, because if we do that, they'll probably take the sponsorship away. Actually,
no. I like this laptop. Please don't take it away.
Right.
Everyone got their gear on time, and it's like they trust me to make sure that they have everything that they need, and in return they give me all the effort. And so I feel like with this authority, and it kind of commandeers some sort of respect and helps the players kind of push themselves to the next level. On Gamers 2 never had that. It was too complacent in many places. People kind of try almost half-assed to try to fix their stuff. Like Ku, he needed like I'm like Ku, you need to stop tilting. Okay, one day doesn't tilt. Next day starts tilting again. Like Ku, you got to stop tilting. And like his mindset specifically for this guy was like, they can't replace me. They won't find someone better. I can do whatever I want. Whereas on the team, everyone's position is at stake if they don't put the effort in. And if a coach doesn't have that authority, or not necessarily authority, but the backing of the organization, then all he's shelling out is empty bluffs. Not empty bluffs, like empty threats in a way. Without actually threatening the player, you have to put pressure on them to perform at all times. It's super important to have that. Otherwise, a player will get too complacent and not be motivated enough to improve.
So I'll come back to you here, Carl. And again, you don't need to name any names. In fact, it's far better if you don't. But have you ever have any difficult conversations? Have you ever had to have that moment where you sit down with a player and you're like, look, you need to get your shit together. This is unacceptable, and it gets weird and it gets awkward.
Yeah, obviously. Like my camera is frozen, but it doesn't really matter. I had the discussion with Alex. Like that's the first and only discussion I had when it comes to this shit. But at that moment, Kareem as a player trusted me enough to know that my words have weight. So if I come to him and have a one-on-one meeting and tell him, okay, this is my opinion on you, this is how it is in the current state, and this is what I want from you in order to keep you on the team. And if you don't change that, then we have to look for a replacement. Those discussions are hard because you have to separate private relationship from working relationship. And that's something that many young people, including myself, have huge troubles with. But I got over with it, and the results were pretty astounding if it comes to me. And going into next season, I think he's one of the more motivated players. Like he's the one working with me even in the off season.
And I'll ask Ram the same question just while you try and restart your camera, because it's a great pose. It's like blue steel, but kind of with a little bit of anger in there. But hopefully we can get you moving again. But Ram, have you ever had to have any awkward conversations? You know, apart from the one with Ocelot about where your money was.
He actually said it was in the pantry, so it was very easy to deal with the money. Awkward conversations.
Well, you know,
I remember one where when I was with H2K, and we had an issue with Febiven not communicating enough in scrims. We can probably bring it up to him in the boot camp that he needed to communicate with people. And he would do so for a few games and it kind of regressed back. So it eventually turned to me sitting right behind him and like poking him. Yo, talk to your jungler. For like maybe the last 7 days of practice. And we also had to talk with him, and it kind of felt awkward in a way, but it wasn't super awkward. I can't really think of like these awkward conversations. At least I haven't had one yet as a coach to a player. But I may have had it as a player to a player in the past. I don't want to put this particular player under the bus, but it was in complexity. And he was underperforming, and it was getting to the point where we were close to replacing him, and I personally had to have a sit down talk with him and tell him, like, look, the guys aren't happy with your performance. You really need to step it up. I don't want to see you replaced, and you really need to step it up. And it was a bit awkward, but like I think that if everybody kind of has the right mindset towards the game and doesn't take too many things personally, then the conversation shouldn't really be awkward.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Ram. So with you, right, you've been a pro player. And, you know, again, I'm not saying this to be a prick, but like, let's say I was also a pro player, and let's say I was a pro player and I thought I was better than Broken Shard, who had also been a pro player. Like, there's measurable statistics out there of your performance levels. There's obviously the famous red buff thing. There's ammunition I can fire at you as a player, right? So cool. You've now got to give me feedback. And let's just say I'm thinking, fuck it, I'm better than this guy. I didn't die to red buff. does that like not make it harder for you? Like, this is one of the things everyone says, well, you haven't played at a high level, so you can't be a coach. But I think sometimes having not played can actually make coaching easier because there's no frame of reference on which to, reject the criticism.
Yeah, in a way it can be easier. And then I know that a lot of the upper echelons of pro players might not respect me because of all the shit that happened, the whole dying to red buff, the whole getting into LCS and then dropping out for whatever reason, like V situation. Yeah, it can affect them, but there's a way of like earning people's respect by just having them listen to what you have to say. And like at the end of the day, it's like those players, Senkux, Wonderwear, those players, they picked me to jungle for them, and asked me to come out of coaching to play them. So I feel that there is some level of respect there, and right now I don't have an issue with any of the players respecting what me or Froskurin have to say. But to answer your question, yeah, it can hurt you. It really can. And I know that level of respect, probably I'll never reach that level of respect with some players now.
I mean, can you give us a specific? I mean, has it happened? Has a player ever said to you like, "Get fucked, I ain't listening to you"?
Yeah. Not one I've coached, but yeah.
Ah, right, okay, all right.
So far, no, but not one I've coached, but yeah, it has happened.
All right, well, so look, let's start doing the news roundup. There's been lots going on in League of Legends since we did a show, so I think we'll try and go over some of the big stories we may have missed, and then in the second half we'll come to what we've actually had in more recent times. So, where should we begin? Well, okay, look, let's talk about Cloud9 and Incarnation. Yay, Carl's back. We got him. Let's talk about that. So, I mean, word on the street, and you know me, I live on the street. That's where I live. Is that he obviously he's got a contract in place at the moment with Cloud9. That contract has been there for a while. And it was taken out pretty early to ensure that he was a viable option when he got him banned in May, should High decide to stand down. And High has chosen that now. So you would imagine Incarnation is the front runner. But I'm hearing he's not going to have it all his own way. Two of the other names that have been bandied around as potential replacements, obviously Yasui, which I think we would all expect because he's in their sister team in Tempest. And apparently he's been playing in scrims and has been doing really well. Apparently he's been wrecking people left, right, and center in scrims. And the other individual, bizarrely, was Corey, who was being talked about as a potential for Cloud9, someone they were looking at. The reason that's been kept on the down low is that no formal approach has been made and everyone's super sensitive about all this poaching bullshit. So I just wondered what you guys thought about all of this, High standing down and these three names that could be potential replacements for High.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I think that High is one of the top 5 shot callers in all of League of Legends. Like what that guy has pulled off in the past is just astounding, and he's one of the main reasons why Cloud9 has been so successful in their runs. And it's not the mechanical level, it's the shot calling level that made him so important. Now, where the mechanical level is actually that important that you can't afford to have a mid laner who, whatever the reasons were why they dropped him or want to replace him, maybe it was a decision from High, I don't know. There's a huge hole to fill. So if you bring in Corey or Selfie or Incarnation, are they able to fill that hole when it comes to shot calling? Or who's the one who tries to fill the hole?
The argument being brought up is that the person doing shot calling when Cloud9 was at Paris with Link was Meteos, and that Meteos was capable of doing the shot calling, or was at a level enough that he could do the shot calling to an acceptable level and learn to become a better shot caller while having that high mechanical mid. So that's the argument that's being brought. So, like, I'm not sure anymore if Incarnation will be going to Cloud9. There's more words on the street that he's staying in EU, and
yeah, I mean, I've heard both. I mean, this is the problem at the moment that nothing has been decided, but there is paperwork in place that would enable him to go straight into Cloud9 starting lineup in NA, or he would also have the option to go to an EU team. Like I don't think Cloud9 would stand in his way if they wanted that.
I think what's funnier is that C9 is getting access to all these great mid laners, but CLG doesn't seem to have been making an approach to even one.
Well, CLG actually did explore the Incarnation option. It was just that by the time they did, C9 had kind of beaten them at the punch. I mean, that's kind of how that went down. It wasn't that they weren't aware that they probably needed to think about a change in personnel. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't know what Link would need to do to actually get removed from CLG. I think he'd need to fucking, kill Hotshot's parents and, well, maybe not even then. Who knows? But it would have to be something pretty fucking extreme. But
you know who would make a great mid laner? He's actually in the chat right now. It's Dentist's son, Blake. Let me tell you about Blake. He's 8 years old, right? Insane skills. Let's give a shout out to Blake. The thing that bothers me most about this is that I think if Incarnation was completely off the table, Yusui would probably be like the best choice for C9 because he's definitely got the most growth potential out of all of them. And I say potential again, but I'm talking about like actual ceiling cap. That right now his level of play isn't anywhere close to how high of a player he can be when he hits that place. Kind of like Febivin. People kind of saw him in Challenger Series and like, wow, he's a great mid. And then you see him in LCS and he's turned from a great mid into probably the best mid in EU. Arguably, on par with Bjergsen or could be better than Bjergsen. We'll see how that matchup goes at MSI. So who's to know that Yusui is a mid laner that's doing quite well in Challenger, someone who could do better given the better team around him.
I mean, just to play a little bit of devil's advocate here as well about what we're saying, that I know a lot of people think Yusui's going to get the chance. Apparently on Gilius's stream, Incarnation did say that he didn't know if he'd be able to get rank 1 because he'd be flying out. So, I mean, I presume that would be to America.
He's still in EU now. Like I've seen him play solo queue as of a couple of hours ago. So I don't know. I don't know how serious the Incarnation of C9 is, or if the rumors of him staying in EU are true. Right now, it's like a whole mess. Half the people think he's going to C9, half the people think he's going to somewhere in EU, and like 3 people probably know what's going to happen.
Yeah, including Incarnation.
Yeah, well, I was going to say I'm not even sure if he does 100%, but I certainly think Cloud9 are going to take a long, hard look at him. Just some thoughts about him wherever he ends up. I mean, are we all excited to see him get his chance, or are we in the school of thought that he shouldn't have been unbanned in the first place? And
I feel like it's 2 seasons too late. Like, I wish that he would have had a chance to play when he was at the absolute peak of success, when he was probably like at the best level, but right now it feels like he's regressed. Like watching him play, maybe he's not taking solo queue too seriously or anything, but I see him play and I feel like this is not the same Incarnation. He's still super good, but it's not like the same dominant force that we saw back when he was 1v1 killing Alex and Froggen on his TP Ignite Fizz in solo queue, or his Ahri or his Zed or whatever. It feels like it's a couple seasons too late, but I'm glad that he's getting his chance now to prove it.
The question that I have is if it's too, like, that guy is a legend. Like, if you talk about Incarnation, he's a myth and he's a legend. He's just one player who's banned. But everyone in the scene assumes if he ever gets the chance to play professionally, he would just wreck faces and go through the LCS leagues like it's Christmas and those are just little presents. If that's really the case, I don't think so. Like, seeing him play, he's still a really, really good player, and definitely a player who can, if he has the understanding of the game, make it to a top LCS level. But he's definitely not the player, at least when you ask me, to just like insta-win games. Like, Incarnation is not the player anymore. You put into the team, and then you automatically have an LCS winning team. That's not the case anymore, especially since you see, it's not about one-on-one kills anymore. The league is not about having strong mechanical individuals. It's about team play. It's about team movements. It's about rotations, however you call it. And if he's able to fulfill that role, I don't really know. No one does, because all that guy did in the last couple of years was play solo queue.
in a way, that's true. But then you look at SK, and SK had almost none of that. They were basically just 5 players, and they dominated the regular season. Sure, they crumbled in playoffs, but it seems like you don't need that much team play to dominate the EU regular season.
They had Svenskeren, and Svenskeren is arguably one of the best junglers when it comes to holding the team together and setting the pace for the game. Svenskeren is probably the best at what he does.
So SK Incarnation, even if they didn't have team play, would they still be dominant in the regular season?
If they had Incarnation in the mid lane.
Yeah.
Assuming that Fox leaves, I don't know. Like Fox is the perfect mid laner for the lineup they have.
So here's the best transition. Word around the street is Forgiven and Fox are out, and Reckless and Incarnation are in.
Well, I mean, look. So I heard the Incarnation to SK thing. I based on my knowledge of the player and how things kind of went towards the end with SK, I don't think that would happen. I think Reckless to SK at this point's a lock, and I was going to get to that. So just in case anyone did miss the news,
it's a lock.
Yeah, a lock. I think it's locked in.
I don't think so.
Well, okay. So I'll tell you what I've heard, and then we can compare notes. So basically, like some people might have missed the story for some reason. Certainly not because it wasn't on Reddit or anything, but obviously Forgiven has put in for a transfer request with SK. Interestingly enough, it wasn't that they didn't want to invest in him. The source that I spoke to, one source that I spoke to, said that actually they wanted to build a team around Forgiven and were going to give him some sort of captaincy role, that he would be able to pick what players they looked at. And apparently he said no. He didn't want that responsibility. So he puts in for a transfer, and then, I mean, Reckless is kind of regretting leaving Fnatic now. He realizes that the grass isn't greener. There were some talks from apparently of a possible move back to Fnatic, which I think's fucking hilarious. Like, I can't even believe Fnatic would entertain that. But apparently there's a no-go. That's a no-go. That's not likely to happen. And SK Gaming obviously need an AD carry. They've had a couple of preliminary chats about the possibility of a move with the Elements guys, and that's meant to be hurtling towards becoming a reality, along with, I think, was it Godfred or something in the bottom line?
Nah, he was just duo queuing with him in solo queue. I know Godfred is like a solo queue player. I don't know about how serious it would be if Godfred actually joined an LCS team. Well,
no, I don't necessarily think that's part of the deal or anything, but I think Reckless to SK Gaming is I probably put it at about 95%.
I may like maybe I look like a total fucking idiot in 3 weeks. But I don't think that Reckless. I give Reckless to SK 0%. Right
0%.
Now. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. So you got to qualify that. Obviously, I'm not saying throw anyone under the bus or give anything away. I'm sure you, being a professional coach, will have a level of insight and access that I certainly don't. So, what makes you think that?
I can tell you that afterwards in a private like in a private
but it's
scenario.
The viewers that need to know.
No, I really can't.
You can't elaborate.
No, I can't elaborate. But it's there. Certain things has happened, both including Reckless and SK, who may or may not be involved in, and that brings me to the conclusion that SK Reckless is not going to happen.
So this is a new development. Yes, I think we should talk now. Okay, but in terms of that, I mean,
as I said, I may look like a total fucking idiot in 3 weeks. I don't know.
Look, it's happened to the best of us. When I reported on the super team, that within 48 hours, and that team was real, within 48 hours, that had fallen apart. I mean, League of Legends, it moves so quick.
I mean, that is not going to stay in Elements is something that the shoes on Twitter gave away.
Dude, you're just giving us blue balls now. You can't just reach into our pants, stroke us off a little bit, and just leave.
Oh,
have some decency to finish us off.
No, I don't finish it.
Let's just rewind a little bit then and talk about where now for Forgiven, because Forgiven, I'm amazed that I know it seems to me that there's a realistic chance that he could end up going to another small team again. That it could be Copenhagen Wolves repeating itself when he ended up at a different dimension for a fucking, God knows how long while he was still contracted to the Copenhagen Wolves, because he's still under contract with SK Gaming. My sources are telling me that they're only going to let him go if the price is right. They're not going to sell him cheap, so it's going to have to be an organization that can afford to buy him. But this is the MVP for this split. So I can't believe that organizations don't want to fucking buy him. I mean, I've heard some crazy shit about where he might end up. I'm almost embarrassed to say it out loud, so I probably won't. But where do you guys think he's going to end up? I mean, he's too good to not be in an LCS team next split, right?
Mechanically, he's the best AD carry in the West, and I'm including America here. And he might be, let me just think about it. Yeah, he's a top 5 in the world on a pure mechanical level. That's basically all I have to say about Forgiven. Like, that guy is too good to not play professionally.
Ram?
By far. No, he's like, you definitely could see the amount of pressure that he put on teams to target him. Their entire strategy about like banning
3
people
bans.
out.
3 bans.
It was basically just try to get rid of Forgiven, and then you saw what happens when they do that. Svenskeren fucking pulls out Lee Sin and just goes like 7-0 every game. Or Fox gets a comfort champion and not Orianna and doesn't miss every shockwave or something like that. He puts an insane amount of pressure on the teams. Imagine him on a team with just even for think better players. Like SK was probably on one of the contestants for one of the best teams in Europe, but imagine on a more global team. Imagine the type of pressure that he would put on other teams then, and imagine with like much better solo laners. Dare I say, someone like Bjergsen or someone like Febiven. Imagine the amount of pressure that he put on other teams to have to choose between trying to get rid of Forgiven or trying to get rid of Febiven's champion pool. It's almost impossible to try to plan out a strategy against that. He's super good mechanically. You saw that he's always going to get fed. Even in bad matchups, he's always at the same level of farm, if not higher than the enemy AD carry. So you know that every game he's going to be relevant in one way or another.
I mean, there's a lot of talk about Forgiven maybe going to NA. I mean, he came really close when he nearly joined Curse before they went with Piglet, obviously Team Liquid now. I don't know where he would go, because I think the thing with Forgiven is he only wants to play in teams that he know can win a split. He doesn't want to be a mid-tier team or a low-tier team. He doesn't want to play in a team just for fun. He doesn't want to be an LCS player just for fun. He only wants to play in teams that can win, and he'd rather not play for a shit LCS team, which is, again, so rare among pros who are all just climbing over each other for a fucking paycheck, doing anything they can to earn this minimum wage. Whereas Forgiven would rather not do that. He only wants to play for winners, which I respect. But could we see him anywhere in NA? Is there any openings, any opportunities?
NA?
Yeah.
Every team would benefit from Forgiven.
TSM physically, first off, they physically can't pick up Forgiven because of the rules that are in place. C9 could, but would they? CLG could, but would they? Team Liquid had that opportunity and they decided to go for Piglet. Maybe they might change their mind. Impulse. Can Impulse, actually? I don't think Impulse can. They can't. Misfits I don't know. Misfits aren't an LCS team, but they're definitely kind of like have the buzz going around them. Alex Ich, Ramilla, RF Legendary, Crumbs. I definitely think that they're really, really good for Challenger, and they'll probably get LCS. But as for them actually competing on a world stage, I don't really see the appeal for Forgiven. It would probably be between TSM, Liquid, CLG, Impact. Sorry, Team Impulse. Impulse even can't actually, and maybe C9. Those are the only NA teams that Forgiven would probably be even thinking about if the mindset that you were talking about is correct, where he only wants to go for like a team that's gonna win.
Yeah.
The thing is, one thing that we can't forget is that off-season, especially in between splits, is crazy shit. So the things that teams may want to do might not always work out. So there are a lot of informations and like bits of rumors going around in the scene, and not all of them come true. Like as a matter of fact, like most of them don't come true because simply the counterpart just says no, like that's not going to happen. So the organization who planned with it had to throw everything around and stick with it. So as of right now, I heard some stuff about Forgiven. Personally, I do believe that he's a player that could make any team better, simply because he's one of the best players in the world, including every wall. But there's also a good chance that he's going to end up staying with SK. Like this, it's all going to be possible, and like just take every bit of information as what it is. It's just a rumor. Like
yeah, true. I can't imagine he would play for SK again. He may be contracted with them, but I mean, you know, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You know what I mean?
There may be some issues between Forgiven and another star player on SK.
Yeah, there may be
issues. Maybe.
I heard that too.
Maybe there. I don't know. I won't say for sure, but
there may be some sort of divide in the team now.
Yeah, there may be a very big issue between Forgiven and one of the players, to the point where if he's on the team, I'm not playing. Said about Forgiven. Maybe. I'm not sure.
So, I mean, again, all rumors and wild speculation, which is what we like. I think we'll just try and cover one more transfer move that we might have heard about before we take a break. I'm just going to try and decide which one. I guess we can end on Leaving Winterfox. I think this is it's a small and a big story, I guess, because I really liked the look of him when he first came through, and I thought this is a guy with, like, again, that word, you know, potential. He looked really good. He was starting to convert. He was delivering it. He had some very good performances. And then obviously Winterfox, you know, getting relegated, which is, you know, kind of good in a way, because we don't have to deal with that awful fucking name being in the league. But you know, I don't know where he's going to go, and apparently he's set to leave the organization. So what do we think about him and where he could end up?
I heard from people that Winterfox relegation kind of frees Altec in a way. People refer to it as freeing him from the organization because he didn't like the organization. He didn't like the management.
Well, there was a lot of rumors about how he had a bad time. I mean, I don't know if you remember when I think Krepo put up a Facebook page when he sort of parted ways with it, and he was talking about their manager Brian Caudry and how he wasn't a very effective manager. And I think there was a story about how one of the players, and I think it was Altec when he first joined, they didn't have a room for him or something.
At the step of the staircase or something. With
he had to sleep like. I mean, again, it might have been over exaggerated, but equally, I mean, if you don't have a bed for a player, that's pretty deplorable, isn't it?
Yeah, at least get a mattress.
He had a mattress. He had a mattress at the foot of the bed, at the foot of stairs. You know.
Yeah, well, exactly. A bundle of rags
and there was the whole Paragon to AD to him support to Glebe as the first support to that fucking I don't even know what his name was, other Korean guy to support, like Helios's twice removed cousin or something. Back to Glebe to so many different things, and the coach from this one Korean guy to another Korean guy to the guy who looks like a surfer to, like, I have no idea. And then Avalon being on the team for so long, even though he didn't really perform super well. There's so many. I
mean, let's be real. If you're a coach and you put yourself in, you deserve to be relegated, no matter how it turned out. I'm actually pretty I do believe that Altec had like a clause in his contract that when they get relegated, that he has the option to sign with a different organization without having to pay any sort of like buyout, because that player is just too good to not play LCS. He's a really good AD carry. He showed promising stuff. As a support, I don't like him, but that's it was a ruined experiment to say the least.
I gotta say, actually, listing all of this here, Winterfox was a fucking mess, wasn't it?
It was a fucking mess, yeah. It was
like, holy shit. Has there been an LCS team that has been more poorly run than this?
Probably because it's LCS.
Velocity.
But
Yeah,
like,
I mean that was some crazy shit.
Velocity,
like-
and guess who was the manager of Velocity?
Altec?
Same manager of Winterfox.
No
Really?
way.
Yeah, it's Brian Cordry.
You're
Oh,
making this up.
well, no, of course, because
No.
EG.
Brian Cordry was
Yeah,
Velocity,
remember
and then
EG bought the spot, didn't they? So they had
Oh,
to
we
keep
see.
him in there.
Oh, so we see a pattern here. This is good. We have to dig deep.
I'm not saying anything. I mean, Brian Cordry's a friend, but Altec didn't like the management.
He'll
not
hate
even a little
this.
bit.
I'll get a Skype message from him now. But Jesus Christ, like the apple don't fall far from the fucking tree, right? I mean, holy shit, you can't.
Oftentimes, those kind of rumors that the guy didn't had a bat, or that the food was horrible, and that they had to eat vegetables and all this shit is that comes from that comes from players, and it's brought to the outside, and then kind of you have to make a deal out of it.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about that. Players should eat vegetables, and you know, fucking.
Has Young
they're
Buck
good
been
for you.
eating his broccoli lately? Come on, man.
Yeah.
Oh, he is. We need
But-
that for lifting.
But I mean, like the fundamentals are fucked here. I mean, and any roster that changes that much, like you say, coaches putting themselves in, Altec playing at fucking support for a game or a couple of games, and just.
I mean,
what-
Thorin, the video that Thorin made where he kind of played both roles, coach and Powelter, that was fucking brilliant. Like, I watched it and I was like, this is exactly how it was. Like,
Wait. I've got a team run worse than Winterfox. Fucking Dragonborns.
Oh yeah, the Dragonborn story.
Yeah, but I mean, were they ever really a team? Were they ever really an organization? Like what we're talking about here is like, you know, you had Velocity, the surprise package. They get picked up by EG so they can exploit one of Riot's loopholes. So EG, this prestigious organization, now they're Winterfox, which is just a rebranded form of EG. They're part of the GGA, and they get fucking relegated despite having had some, you know, pretty big names playing for them. You know, this is. Fucking, I might write an article about this. I might get loaded and write an article about it, which no one will be able to read. No one will be allowed to read. But
then you'll get like some Reddit post that's like, there was an article written from Daily Dot and this. That's what people are resorting to now. Is just like self-posting this stuff. No, but like
need to teach people more stuff.
I heard a rumor that even when they were under EG, the organization like didn't give a fuck about them. Like they didn't really do much to help them.
Mm.
That's the rumor that I heard. That was from like almost a year ago, though.
Well, I mean, I guess it makes sense. I think Alex Garfield was already on the big GGA tip by then. Like that was his next project, and the idea of the EG League of Legends team sort of probably didn't. Yeah, he was delegating all of that responsibility to Mr. Cordry at that juncture, and had to ultimately, because if Alex Garfield was interfering with the day-to-day, the minutiae of running a team in the LCS, that would, of course, have contravened. I mean, that would have defeated the whole object of what Riot were trying to achieve by making them rename. You know, so yeah, fairly ridiculous. But okay, so that answers that question. But where for Altec? This kid's got a future, right? That was the point they're trying to make.
He should have a future.
He's a solid AD carry. He's proven that he can perform well. I don't know which team in particular would be having their eyes on him, but if anyone's looking for an upgrade, he's right there. Thinking about teams that are better than Winterfox that might need a new AD carry, maybe Team 8? Team 8, maybe, if they're planning to do changes. Gravity's Cop is quite good. Apollo for Altec, maybe, on Impulse. Could be something else. He does speak Korean, so he'd be able. No, wait, Altec doesn't speak Korean. I'm sorry. That's just but what people really want to talk about Winterfox when I talk about Winterfox is Powelter, who really didn't have the greatest showing in those relegation matches when he was hyped up to be like this fantastic mid laner and everything. You know, maybe Altec might go to Misfits. Like it seems like Misfits are looking for a new AD carry. I'm just getting information from this one guy.
Apparently, I mean, so you know what it's like when we're talking on show, and I got sources hitting me up on Skype and shit. Apparently, he's still under contract, Altec, with Winterfox, and Winterfox are looking to sell him. Rather, the contract hasn't been invalidated just because they've got relegated, and the organization wants to kind of keep him, but they also want him to be happy. So the happy medium, I guess, is selling him. But who's going to buy a player that's just got relegated, from a fucking the LCS unless they're absolutely phenomenal?
Altec is a pretty phenomenal AD carry, I think, in my opinion. I think that he's got
phenomenal. Might be overselling it. I think he's good. I think he's got the potential to be great. But how much do I want to pay some bumfuck organization to get him? Like,
well, it doesn't matter who you pay for, unless you the most important part is that you get a player. And Altec is an upgrade to to the better part of the AD carries in the West. So if an organization wants to have them.
I mean, let's talk about me, right? I was contracted, and teams bought me. Like, if teams would buy me, then teams would want to buy Altec. Like,
it's a really good argument.
That's like the best possible argument I can give you. Like, teams bought me. Okay, teams bought me. If teams bought me, then yeah,
you know how footballers, they always talk about the transfer fee that they went for, the biggest amount that was paid for them. How much would it cost to get somebody? Don't name the organization. I don't want you to get in any trouble. But what was your highest transfer fee?
2,000 euro.
So for 2,000 euros, you can have your very own broken shard.
That was the highest. That was the highest buyout fee. Right now, that's not a lot, but it was further.
Back in
my day, back in my day, that 2,000. Fuck
back in season two, end of season 3, that was like a much bigger buyout than what people are actually going for now.
But who paid the 2,000? The organization who they paid the organization for getting.
If I talk about it, then it'll make it obvious.
Yeah. Here's what we should do, right? So just a suggestion. But if there's anyone watching this show, if you want Ram to have to contractually play in your ranked 5s team for a whole year, I am willing, as his agent, to accept, because I think 2,000 would be too much for him now. I'd be willing to accept 1,000, I think, is fair. So for 1,000 euros, you can buy Broken Shard from me.
You can have your very own Broken Shard.
I can smell a kickstart.
A kickstart. Buy Broken Shard. Let's get it trending on Twitter, guys. Hashtag buy Broken Shard.
But aren't you the contracted jungler for Thomas Solo mid anyway?
We don't like to talk about that team. The team is a giant mess. We've lost our star AD carry, Draven only. And Blake doesn't even want to practice anymore. That kid's gone renegade.
No, but we should definitely
8 years old, man. Insane skills. No, I'd like to see the hashtag buy Broken Shard thing get started. It would turn it into a meme.
Obviously, you wouldn't be able to understand it if we didn't turn it into a meme.
No, I don't really know what memes are.
We need.
I would actually much rather this suggestion by this one guy, FPS Cowley, hashtag buy the Jew. I like that a lot. We should do that. Yeah. Nah, Odie wants to keep me. Sorry, guys. Odie only participates in the trading of mouse pads. So, unless you got like a bunch of them, I don't know if we're getting the transactions anywhere. No, but teams have spent more money for worse players. If a team really wants Altec, and I think teams do value Altec, they will buy him. And I don't think Winterfox is going to make the buyout something incredibly high at all. I think if they want him to be happy, like they were saying, they wouldn't just keep him.
Isn't like 10K the cheapest you can get any player who ever played in the LCS?
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I don't know if 10K. I think 10K is a bit overboard there.
Really?
Right.
Yeah. 10K for Altec is disgusting.
Yeah, 10K would be, I think, ridiculous. But anyway, we'll kill that there. We'll take a little break, I think, guys, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk. This is what I really wanted to talk about on the show, because we talked about it a little bit on Trash Talk earlier today before we got DDoSed into oblivion. But I want to talk about Team 2G. Copyright, or rather trademarking the term Subwars. I'm sure you guys both have some opinions on that. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of the other transfer shenanigans. And then we'll end by looking ahead, I think. We'll look ahead to the next split and, not in depth, just some thoughts. Anyway, we'll take 5 minutes. We'll get rehydrated and then we'll come back for the second half. Don't you guys go too far. We'll be back shortly. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. A little bit longer than 5 minutes. Turned out Dentist had to have a PP, and Ram had to tell us about all the other transfer fees that he'd been bought for. He was saying if you add them all up, he's actually the most expensive player of all time in League of Legends history. That's not true. I just made that up. Anyway, we've still got some stuff that we want to talk about.
I can see why you're bad for Reddit, you fucking cunt.
Yeah, whatever. I can see why you're a washed-up player. No, I don't even know where I was going with that.
Yeah. Your banter's about as good as your Reddit karma.
Like, it's got that stage where I just can't be fucked anymore. Like, I just can't be fucked. Like, it took so much mental strength to even come out for the second half. It's like, it's just, oh, God, come on, just get to the end. But look, let's talk about Krepo, speaking of getting to the end. Because obviously Krepo has come to the end of his playing career. He's been talked about as being, a potential candidate for relegation in the past. Then he sort of pulled it out and started playing really well towards the back end of the EG era, and then he ends up at Elements, and people are like, yeah, he's actually helping that team out. And then they apparently put in a load of practice with him, a reputed 3 weeks solid scrimming, and then something just has occurred, and now he's retired. So it came a little bit out of left field. I mean, I don't think anybody saw this coming, especially with this big announcement about a new Elements team around the corner. So what do you guys make of it? You're closely connected to the scene in a way that I'm not. Is this a surprise for you guys?
Yeah, 100%. Like,
No,
for me,
not
it's
at
a
all.
surprise.
Not at
Because
all.
if you look at the available supports, like what supports are on the market, and what could you possibly replace a player like Krepo with? And let's be real, Noxiac. Yeah, Noxiac
Shows a lot of promise.
Replacement.
Hiva from Gamers 2.
That's actually been talked about. I mean, that was one of the rumors doing the rounds. But before we move on to the replacement again, let's just focus on, Krepo. Like, why do we think it's happened? Because I thought everything was going well in the Elements camp.
Not really.
I don't know what's going on. I have no fucking idea what's going on there. Like, honestly, I just don't know. Like, I've heard a lot of names, a lot of stories, like in the last couple of weeks, but replacing Krepo was never one of them. Like, I knew that he was like flirting with the idea of quitting his professional career after the.
Be careful! Don't say that, because if you say that, he sets his fans on you and says that that's not true.
Oh,
I
no.
did this before.
Flirting with the idea doesn't mean that he ever said that to me, or that I heard that he said it. But it's just the word on the street that, like, some people
Yeah,
said
but it was
he
the
might
word
be
on the
doing it.
street and multiple Skype logs when I wrote it. But he went out of his way to say that he never said it to anyone, even though I knew for a fact that he had. So
Yeah, I don't know about that. Like, but replacing him is nothing personally I would do. Like, I would never replace a player like Krepo when I'm in charge of the team, simply because he stepped up so fucking huge last split. Like, regardless of how Elements as a team performed, Krepo was always one consistent source of and he was an immediate improvement the moment he came in. Like, you could saw it. Like, the whole play as a team became better. His mechanical level was on par due to the fact that he was streaming for 12 hours a day beforehand for Cloud9. That guy is a beast player. Like, he's a really good support player. And for me, it comes personally as a surprise that he retires at this point, because he has what it takes.
Didn't they go like 0-2 and throw a massive game against Giants in this first 2 games playing? Immediate improvement? I don't think so. I think his initial entrance into the team was weak, but he did improve over the split that he was on Elements. Definitely better than Nif, but
wasn't the giant thrower with Kevin?
Yeah,
that was with Nif and Kevin, if I remember correctly.
No, I think it was Krepo. I think Kevin and Krepo come in at the same time?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I'm pretty sure that they did.
No, they didn't, because then Krepo would have been the topic of the coach interview that they had before the show, and it was just talked about Kevin.
Maybe you're right. Oh damn, that's right. No, that's Kevin. That's Kevin. Sorry, why am I thinking about Kevin right now? It's too late.
I honestly believe that the moment Krepo went in, I saw an immediate improvement in terms of gameplay, not only mechanical wise but also team play wise.
I think he takes losses almost too personally in a way. If you read his Twitter after every loss, that they had, he took it to the point where it was almost depressing to read in a way. Like, yeah, it's okay to get upset over losses, but
Yeah, but that's a thing that I value in players. Like if they after a game, if they lose it because they made some mistakes, there are two things you can do as a player. First thing, you look at yourself and you look what mistakes did you do, and then you kind of realize that you could have done one or the other thing better. And another thing is you just don't give a fuck and say, okay, well, we had bad luck. That's something you can't work with. If you have a player who acknowledged that he made mistakes, you can work with him on those mistakes because you know, since he knows that he made mistakes, he will acknowledge them and you can work on them with them. If you have a player who doesn't give a fuck, you can't work with him on his mistakes because he just said, well, it was just an unlucky situation overall, maybe more luck next split. Like, I don't like that in players.
It's true that it's important to be able to take fault for your losses, but I don't think it helped the team atmosphere when he was talking about retiring while he was still playing in Elements, which he frequently did on Twitter and on his social media. It was almost like a constant topic.
Yeah, that's like it's like a balance you have to find when it comes to this. But I understand.
I think we've established at this point that League of Legends has a few sort of set rules that are like written in stone, 10 commandments, biblical levels of shit. And one of those rules is Krepo can do no wrong. I think you can't really actually sort of have a sensible conversation about him as a player. I think his fans are some of the most over the top and retarded I've encountered, and that includes all of League of Legends. I think whenever anyone...
Whoa. You can't talk. You can't say that word on stream, man.
Yeah, true. Sorry.
That's a bad word.
Big sorry.
But you know, it is one of those situations where I think whenever you sort of try and talk critically about the player and like sort of, not the person, the player, what he brings, you just can't. You actually can't do it. No one will have a sensible conversation about him. It's either all or one. It's it's all one way or it's all another. So it's really difficult to even talk about him. Like even now, I'm predicting the immediate future, which is he'll probably watch this VOD. I think he has the requisite levels of ego to do that. And then there'll be some sort of passive-aggressive tweet about our collective opinions and veiled reasoning about why they don't matter. So it's ultimately pointless. And plus, you're never going to get across to a Krepo fan if there were any deficiencies. For me, in terms of watching him as a player, I actually thought he got better towards the end of his career, actually. I thought the last, the time he played with EG towards the end, and then when he came into Elements, and actually, I think he did give them a lift. I thought that was a lot better than he'd sort of played previously. There was like a continuation of an increase in his skill levels, which I don't even really know what to attribute that to, but it could be, he's always talking about his fitness regime and that kind of thing. And, it could be linked to that. But certainly there was a period of time where he was very mediocre. Not that anyone would ever say it out loud.
No, unpopular opinion.
Yeah.
Unpopular opinion, time. I didn't think that Krepo was a very good player, and I think that you could probably develop better talent than Krepo. His biggest talent was talking about the game and his eloquence and his ability to explain different situations. So as a streamer, he was super successful. As a coach, he probably would be quite successful. And as a caster, I feel that he'd probably be the most successful. Like that just seems like a career that was meant to be filled by Krepo almost. The way that he talks, the way that he explains his fan base, the way that he sees the game is easy to understand. This whole level 2 power spike thing that came out of just his stream is just an example of that. But I feel that there could be better options than Krepo for Elements.
Carl, obviously it's a little bit more difficult for you to go as ham as Ram just did.
I don't think that was ham. I don't think that was too ham.
It wasn't ham. Like, it's just a personal opinion. If you don't think he's a good player.
Well, when I say ham, I mean I guess I'm falling into the trap here of this culture of, like, again, there's certain things you can and can't say, and certainly you can't be critical of Krepo in any way, shape, or form. You just can't do it.
Well, no, that's not. If I think a player is shit, I will say it. But I just don't believe that Krepo is a shit player. Like,
no, we're not talking about shit. We're talking about
Is he like?
I
Does
don't
he
think
have what it
Krepo.
takes?
I don't think Krepo is a shit player. I don't think he's shit by all means. He's probably
No,
better than most supports in the challenger scene. I just don't think that his expectation of being like the best support or on the best team in Europe is a realistic expectation for him or top 3 team.
That expectation came along. That expectation came along with the fact that he played in Elements, and let's not forget who was also on that team. Like, if you play in a team with fucking Froggen, with Reckless, with Wicked, and with Shook, the expectation of winning the split or contesting to win that split is not too high. So I kind of get him. Like, you get frustrated if you lose games with that team. Like, I would have been frustrated as fuck. If I would coach that team and they would constantly lose and end up 7th place, I would have been frustrated. Like,
if anyone had coached that team, that would have been a step in the right direction, wouldn't it?
Nice.
Nice. Did you like that one? You like that one?
That was good. That was good. That was good. That was great banter.
Thank you. Classic banter. But look, so just so it's not all bad, because I feel we've been somewhat disparaging about his career. I mean, obviously, he is going to have a constant presence in League of Legends. He certainly have a legacy. I mean, in different times before he became a little bit too, fixated on the media and using his platform as a super popular player to kind of attack anybody that was doing any form of reporting about him in any way, shape, or form. I did an interview with him. He certainly seemed a pleasant person, and I know we're going to be seeing a lot of him anyway. He'll be pretty much guaranteed a job at Riot from the get-go.
He's got places to go. Like, he could pretty much choose one of 3 career paths. He can go back to being a streamer and get good viewers that he did. He could go be a coach for a team. He's definitely getting offers. Or he could go be a Riot caster and save and honestly probably be like the best thing to happen to the EU broadcast crew since Deficio developed himself as a caster. Like, he would be a huge improvement to the EU broadcast crew, for sure.
Carl?
Yeah, I just don't see him as a coach, not because of the fact that he's not a suitable coach, because he would have been, like, he could possibly be a good coach, but simply because of payment. Like, I don't think that if you look at the other 2 options, he can just earn more money with being a streamer. Like, if he's a streamer, then he earns a shit ton of money because of the personality that he has, the fan base that he had, and the fact that he's an entertaining streamer. And the Riot broadcast thing is just like, it's the perfect self-branding. Like, if you're a shortcaster at Riot, and you have self-branding like crazy. So one of the 2, it's going to be most definitely the shoutcaster.
All right, cool. So we didn't talk about Gambit when we were doing our sort of news roundup.
I guess like we should just really be keeping tabs on this Elements lineup. But I don't think there isn't going to be any Wicked improvements there.
So, okay, that's actually a good point, Ram. Although made in a terrible way.
Yeah, they all have really nice shoes. At least we can.
Yeah, God, that was like, come on. These fucking teasers are just getting fucking stupid now. Like, are you not happy enough for Elements having had the worst team announcement in the history of the game by, like, doing the Captain Planet style introductions, like, with the heart of rock in the top? It's fuck off, please. But anyway, they continue now with this shoe teaser. But yeah, we should talk a little bit about the Elements lineup. Obviously, Krepo's out. I mean, Tabs is back in, right? I mean, that's... We're all on board with that, aren't we?
The Twitter detectives figured it out.
Oh yeah, the Twitter detectives already figured it out. Like, they matched his shoes and pants to the shoes and pants that he took while he was in Venice.
But so, let's be real here. If you're an organization, you want to make a big deal about your new roster announcement, you make sure that the players you put on that fucking picture with the fucking shoes and pants you're wearing haven't ever possibly posted those shoes on Twitter before. Because there are a lot of people out there who have nothing better to do but to look at that picture and then search through all the fucking pro players and look through the picture history if there's any picture with shoes on there. So, Tabs, congratulations. Like, you did it.
Yeah, but actually, do you know what, though? The guys who did that, I'd like to hire them as researchers, because, like, fucking hell, the dedication it takes.
No, it took, like, fucking 5 minutes.
No, surely not. Not 5.
It did.
It
of
literally took
course.
5 minutes. It literally took 5 minutes. You honestly don't understand how.
For
What
For two-
elements that amateurish? then? Is
yeah,
that-
for 2
Wow.
players, it took fucking 5 minutes. I was like, no fucking way. I even realized. I noticed. I mean, I know who that player is anyway. But I saw the shoes. I was like, okay, he posted that shit like 2 weeks ago. Like, look at my new fucking shoes. Like that announcement was just plain bullshit. I don't know. I don't know what they thought about. Like I really don't know what was the matter of that fucking picture. Like
Jesus.
you needed like literally 1 minute for Froggen.
So okay, yeah. Well, so we know Froggen's still in there. We know Tabs is in there. And that was reported some time ago anyway. I think I might have dropped that one actually. We know obviously they've been trialing the shit out of JWoww. Is that gonna go ahead, do we think?
Yeah.
I don't know, Kev.
I don't know, Kath.
I don't know, Kev. I did recognize the shoes of someone there that isn't any of what you just said, from partying in the past. So there's also going to be more.
The people who party with you aren't that many, so it's like probably one of the 3, and it's not Wicked, so it's kind of like obvious as well. No, but if you're a smart detective, you can figure out the lineup just by the shoes.
Yeah, and Dexter in there, right? Guys?
I wouldn't make any comments.
I plead the 5th.
All right, okay. Well, fuck it then. I thought we were going to discuss the lineup, and then we better plead the 5th because they posted shoes on Twitter. Like, I don't even know what